Welcome back, dear viewers, and in this segment of our program we are going to talk about the recent developments in tourism sectors and also preparations for the winter seasons. And to shed more light on this, we are joined today by Dr. Yahya Abdul Kader, Tourism Counselor. Good morning.
Morning.
A very good morning to you, sir. And if you permit me, before we start, let's have a quick look at what is happening in France with Tutankhamun exhibits there, which attracted tens of thousands of people to just have a glimpse at the young pharaoh's belongings. Let's watch what's going on and what Tutankhamun is doing in France with people from all over Europe in this report, and we are going to return back.
Show set a new all-time French record on Sunday with 1.42 million visitors flocking to see the exhibition in Paris. The organizers made the announcement at the turnout beat the previous record set by another Tutankhamun show built at the exhibition of the century in 1967, when 1.24 million queued to see Tutankhamun and his times at the Petit Palais. Tutankhamun, Treasures of the Golden Pharaoh, which has been described as a once-in-a-generation show, will open in London in November. The last time a show is of a comparable size, About the Boy King, opened there in 1972. It sparked Tut mania, with 1.6 million people thronging the British Museum. More than 150 treasures from the monarch tomb, including 60 which have never left Egypt before, have been assembled for the show. The Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities said this was the largest number of Tutankhamun artifacts ever to have left Cairo. Almost all of the 3,400 exhibits come from the Egyptian Museum in Cairo's Tahrir Square and are never likely to leave the country again. Its unparalleled collection is being transferred to the enormous new Grand Egyptian Museum, or GEM, near the pyramids, the Plateau in Giza, which is due to open next year. Mustafa Waziri, the Egyptian Ministry's Secretary General, said the show, which also visits Sydney next year, will help pay for the new Giza Museum. Minister of Antiquities Dr. Khaled Al-Anani said he was sure that the immense interest in the exhibition will encourage millions of visitors to visit Egypt's museums and remarkable monumental sites. And the Louvre, which loaned the greatest piece in its Egyptian collection, the statue of Amun, the king of the gods protecting Tutankhamun, also hailed the show's runaway success. The organizers added that some 50,000 children visited the show on school trips alone. The show will visit other as yet undisclosed cities before the artifacts are returned to Egypt in 2024.
So welcome back. So Dr. Yahya, I've just seen now a report on King Tutankhamun's who is displayed in his tomb is displayed in France. So to what extent this will help in attracting more tourists to Egypt?
Really, you are very fortunate, to discover, the relics of the young king in 1922. For the past 50 years, his collection has been touring, worldwide in America and Japan and Europe and France. And this exhibition, really, it was like 1.4, this is the most popular show that ever been exposed, in Paris. And bear in mind that it's only 150 artifacts that has been, exposed and displayed. But inshallah, at the Grand Egyptian Museum, we're going to have a collection of 5,000, artifacts. So that will show the magnitude that all visitors will like to come to Egypt to watch the whole collection of the king.
And sir, whenever we are talking about tourism, let's have a quick look at what happened in the tourism sector in Egypt in 2019.
Well, so far, 2019 is a good year, inshallah. We have an increase estimated at 22% of tours, arriving from France, Germany, Britain, and the Asia-Pacific region. Japan, Korea, and China. There is an influx of tourists too, as well as from Latin America and Spain. So hopefully within 100 days, which will conclude 2019, we'll have an average number of tourists which is going to exceed 12 million visitors, inshallah.
So sir, to what extent the cultural events help in boosting tourism?
Well, really culture, like especially in Egypt plays a major role in attracting, visitors internationally, regionally, and locally to a destination, unique destination like Egypt with its antiquities and archaeological sites. So the Opera Aida is going to be performing next month on the 26th of October for 3 shows. And there is an orchestra, Ukraina, of 80 musicians going to, conduct the opera and the recitals, in addition to 70 members of the chorus who are going to perform with them. This is a great opportunity to promote Egypt. Especially is going to be performing at the Queen Hatshepsut temple in the west bank of the Nile in Luxor. And we look forward, that students, who study, archaeology, tour guiding, and music in Egypt, especially University of Helwan. So we hope that Dr. Magid Negm will invite his students from the tour guidance to escort the groups, and those who study music and at the conservatoire as well, to be, because this is a unique, opera that has been performed 150 years ago.
This is going to take place next month, in October?
Yes, 26, 27, 28 at the Queen Hatshepsut temple in Luxor.
And also October is going to witness the perpendicular rise of the sun on Ramses II's face?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
In just 1 month, the two major
two
incidents
events
are going to take place, inshallah.
Exactly.
Well, sir, but let's take the file of tourism to another section, which is sports tourism. Sports tourism is also, or it's becoming really, an important part of our story. The AFCON, which was organized in Egypt very successfully with the participation of 23 African teams. When we are speaking about the other games which Egypt is really on top of, like modern pentathlon, for example, and Klaus Schurman, the president of the International Union, or the UIPM, said much more even than we can imagine about how Egypt really succeeded in organizing the World Cups. How do you see sports tourism and its future in Egypt?
Well, really you are lucky, because our athletes, are performing, spectacularly well worldwide. We are winning, we won the tournaments, African tournaments in Morocco, and we scored lots of gold. And we had the African World Cup, performed in Egypt 2 months ago. So really, Egyptian athletes and the events that we organize is worldwide recognized and appreciated. But we still, lack, major events. Like, for example, in the tennis, there is 4 major titles, Roland Garros,
Yes.
Wimbledon, US Open.
Grand Slams, you mean?
Yes, and the Australia Open. So this, generates, about billions of dollars worldwide. So I remember Gezira Club used to conduct the Davis Cup,
Yes.
tournaments and competitions. This is
It
not
was
done
actually
anymore.
2 weeks ago there was Davis Cup in Gezira.
Yeah, so really we need to introduce, more clubs, and to adopt, certain sports like Zuhur, Gezira, major clubs in Egypt. We have squash tournaments, which is Egypt is world champions for the past 10 years. So really we need this as well. We need the Formula One that's
For the
performing.
past century. Yeah.
We need the Formula One that's performed in Singapore, in Malaysia, and Bahrain. So really this major event, have a commercial return. I remember that there was a World Cup performed in Germany 10 years ago, and I wrote an article. The revenue was about $6 billion, So when you have tournaments of such magnitude and it's done professionally, there's a good return, and it's a great boost for the world capitals. They compete about doing the Olympics, like Los Angeles, London, Paris, Tokyo, Moscow. So we look forward that we, we initiate this policy and make a good return out of it.
Inshallah.
So, sir, also the government is keen on building new airports in different places in Egypt. So to what extent this will help in easing the move of tourists?
Yeah, well, currently, Egypt, we used to get a good volume of tourists,
Yes.
From the major international cruising line. Some of these cruise lines, have 3,000 to 4,000 passengers, They used to land in Alexandria and Port Said, and like in Hagara, but it's been discontinued for some time. So we need to resume this back. This is a good business for the quick tours, as well as because of the situation now in the Middle East. There's no much traffic coming via roads, from east to west to whatever. So 90% of our tours arrive by air. So to have an extensive network of airports like in Alamein, Marsa Matruh, Sphinx, Sphinx, and the new capital. So we have now currently and Marsa Alam. So we have a good number network of airports, but they need to be consolidated under one management. We don't invest in them. They should be operating for charters, for direct calls, for scheduled flights, and for cargo as well.
Sir, if we are going to talk about the monumental sites in Egypt, the first thing which is going to come to our minds is Upper Egypt. But there are other parts of Egypt which are unfortunately till the moment undiscovered, and they are not positioned highly on the tourism map, despite the fact that San al-Hagar, for example, in Sharqiyya, I think it's the Luxor of the Delta.
That's true.
And as far as I understand, that its place should be a little bit up than that in the touristic map. How do you see these places, or how to market them, or to have the proper propaganda for them to put them higher on our touristic map?
Well, really the French ambassador, like last week, he was convening with Dr. Al-Anani, to update him, about the progress of the French expedition, working in Tanis and San al-Hagar region in Sharqiyya Governorate. And the mission has been there for over nearly a century, 90 years. So really they fixed it, the whole area, and is going to be opening soon as an outdoor museum, which we lack in Egypt. And really it's a tremendous area, because that describes the progress and the role of the 21st, 22nd, 23rd dynasties. There's lots of antiquities, and remember the Ramessides, the whole Ramesside family was stationed there, and it was a new capital for Egypt after Thebes and Memphis.
The Hyksos were also there. Avaris.
Avaris, exactly. That was the capital until they were dismissed by Ahmose. Exactly. So really it's going to upgrade and develop this area for tour operators to include Tanis on their scheduled tours. Yes.
So sir, what are the preparations for the winter season and reservations, of course?
Well, really for the moment we have a very positive booking for the winter of 2019 and early 2020, because I checked with some friends who are professional tour guides, and they told me that they have a schedule which is covers, and their schedule, it's a busy schedule, is going up all the way to October 2020.
Yes.
So tour operators in Egypt, we're going to have, inshallah, a very prosperous winter season, because European tourists, and Asians as well, they love to go Upper Egypt, Luxor, Aswan, and do night cruises, and still other more tourists, who go to Hagara, Marsa Alam, and Sharm el-Sheikh, so, and Ain Sokhna as well. So really you are blessed to have destination that can attract, a variety of groups, yes.
So finally, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Yahya Abdul Kader, Tourism Counselor. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much.
Have a very good day, sir, and thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
And by this, we come to the end of this episode of our breakfast show. My name is Nirmeen Abdurrahman, and I had all the pleasure to have with me my dear colleague, Shireen Hadi. Shireen, thank you.
Thank you, Nirmeen. And dear viewers, we come to the end of today's edition, and see you tomorrow with a new crew.